Hello, everyone. Yes, we are live again today. Thank you for joining us, and we are going straight into what we have for you guys today. So, looking at what I have on my screen, you can see this was tweeted by UC Maxwell, who was saying that Tinubu's lawyer emailed Chicago court. They want this case that was meant to be heard today to be deferred to tomorrow. But this request was turned down. The court was saying that you don't file by motion. You don't, that such request is filed by motion, not email. So they sent this message via email, but the court is saying that you don't send such an important message via email. So it was turned down, and the hearing, I think, held today. So we are yet to give you people updates on that. That will be tomorrow. So we are wondering why they want this case to be deferred. They don't want it to be heard today. They want it to get pushed, as in they should be pushing it further, so that you know these documents might end up being released at the wrong time when it won't be of any importance again. So the person that tweeted this tweet went ahead to give some evidence. Like you can see down here, he said, for those who said it was false, see receipt, the email and court refusal note. So he attached that to this tweet that he tweeted. You might want to go to that Twitter handle to read the detail of that if you in case you can't really see it very well on the screen here. So yeah, this is one of the things that we are saying, that honestly, we don't even know why these people are just like playing with Nigerians. They should just allow the courts to do the needful, and let's put this case to rest. So, Doctor, I'm going to be allowing you comment a bit on this before we go into what we have exactly for our audience tonight.
Good evening, my wonderful people. I hope we're doing good. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
All right. The only thing I want to say is this. Everything we are doing in Nigeria, the US is seeing it. Their observers were here. And permit me to say that they look at not US as a country, look at Nigerian situation from the point of view of their own interests. How is what is happening in Nigeria benefiting or hurting their interest? This is pure business. International politics is business. There is no free favor anywhere. You might say, but the justice system in America is better than that of Nigeria. Well, if America wants to help us, let me ask us question, Nigerians. American pumped in money for the conduct of 2023 election. They sent in their observers. What is the official position of America after the election? Did you read the letter of the observers that came from the US delegation? What was the official letter that US wrote? Their own reports. Just like we saw ECOWAS report and we saw EU's report. Where is US report? I don't know. I can't see it. I have not seen it. It also surprised me. It surprised me that the INEC chairman was at Chatham House and gave that statement where he said what is in the law, because people keep saying he made promise. He said what is in the law, how election results will be uploaded on real time to the IREV, and how using IREV, without IREV, you cannot do collation. After the mess of the February 25th election, what has Chatham House said? Show me their letter, show me their email, show me their press release. I haven't seen. I'm not trying to criticize anybody. I am just asking questions. Okay? So that's the way I see it. That is really, really the way I see it. If the court decides to sit, Atiku has said his prayer. I need this thing to be able to prosecute my case. And he has written the court to expedite the situation, the hearing. If they are going to deny his prayer, they should deny it and let us know. If they are going to grant his prayer, they should expedite it and grant his prayer. Let the whole thing get transferred to our own court here. You see, many Nigerians are coming to terms with reality that our Supreme Court may not go even in any way different from the way of the appeal court. But let it be said, just like we said here, let it be made public. How do I mean? Back in 1997 and in 1998, the whole nation of Nigeria was under tension because of President Abacha. He was in the office, but Nigerians knew that we don't want him. They knew that this man foisted himself on us. So let it be clear that we have leaders that were elected, or we have leaders who forced themselves on us. And let the court situation expose the rot that is in the judiciary. Just as you can see that the rot at the level of appeal court has been exposed beyond reasonable doubt. Because the law is there, and they went against the law. The law is there, and they went against the law. I mean, anyway, let's just move on to what we have today. I'll leave it this place.
Yeah, Doc, like someone told me that even if Peter Obi ended up not getting justice from the court, well, he has helped Nigerians to understand not just what is in our constitution, but also to understand what is happening in our judicial system. As in, many people are getting to know what has been happening and what is still happening up to today. Without Peter Obi, I think most of us would have just let Nigeria move on. Let the election, let it be whosoever that wins. Just like the market people always say, the market women, that anybody that wants to win, let him win, that we don't care, But I think things have really changed. So going to the Supreme Court is really another bold step, if not for any other thing, to tell us the stance of our judiciary, to tell us how strong, how independent our judiciary is, how our judges, how bold are they, how strong can they just, be in delivering justice. I think these are some of the things that are being unfolded at this moment, and we can't just but appreciate the person of Peter Obi for taking Nigeria to this point. I know so many people are condemning him, like somebody from the APC is saying, arrest Peter Obi. Why is it that somebody that came third is claiming that he won the election? Peter Obi has ended up helping Nigerians to be educated.
No. Let me put it this way. I've said it in this platform that Peter Obi had more like, I could summarize his project as a three-pronged project. He has won two. The last one is what we're praying for him to win. The first one is to awaken Nigeria up. He has succeeded in doing it. Which month did he declare for the presidency? It was last year. And from nowhere, that young man woke up Nigerians from Zamfara to Maiduguri, from Maiduguri to Bayelsa, to Port Harcourt, to Taraba, to Kwara, to Kogi, across Nigeria. Nigeria woke up. That was the first win. The second win is he has also led us to see that the structure we are talking about in Nigeria, whether in politics or in the judiciary or in the legislature, is structure of corruption. He used to say it, and he has succeeded through his petition to expose that to us. Thirdly, if God finally made it possible for him to become the president, he will also show us that Nigeria is great and that Nigeria can become the giant it's supposed to be if they allow him. But he has won 2 out of 3. But we are praying for him to win 3 out of 3. As per the woman who said arrest him, you know that woman, I can't even join word with her. Because Nigerians know her antecedent. There is a place where you categorize some people. It's one of those people in Nigeria we categorize as per don't respond. They are not worth it. But let's put it this way. There are maybe 30 oranges, 30 fruits, apple, orange, and banana, for instance. And somebody come and grabbed his own, which is maybe 10, and then come again to grab another person's own and put in his own. Now, and the other person, the third person, he went and took little, maybe took 2 there and took 5. Automatically, he's going to have a basket of 17. He will be ahead. Isn't it? The thief will be ahead with 17. The other person that he took his 2 will be second. And the other person that he took his 5 will be where? Will be third. But if for any reason they say, okay, begin to return what you stole, what do you think will happen? He himself will begin to draw back. And the other people he stole his own will begin to come forward. That is what happened here. When the Labour Party's vote were stolen, naturally, Labour Party will be injured. But if his vote were to be returned back to him, the man who returned his vote back to him will lose his position and draw backward. And the man who is recovering his vote will come forward. So if I say to the woman now that she's acting and talking like an ignorant person who didn't go to school, they will say I'm probably being insultive. So let me not go there. But we know when intelligent people talk.
Yeah. So I want us to take this person's question because I was planning to ask you to comment on this because so many people were like, even if Atiku gets this document that he's fighting for, is he going to be adding it while appealing at the Supreme Court? So you can read the comments here. And
yes, it's as so far as it is a prayer he had made at the lower court.
Okay.
So far as it is a prayer he had made at a lower court. You remember that the appeal court said that in their own judgment of that 700 and something pages, they tried to validate the so-called record that APC brought, thereby exonerating APC and their candidate. When he appeals now, he has that leave of the courts to substantiate that even the so-called record they themselves submitted is a lie. And he's bringing the truth to falsify that particular one. So technically, they gave him the room to be able to supply further evidence. That is it as it has to do with the law and the burden of proof. Even though we know, based on what happened at appeal courts, that if we are looking at the system so that it follows the path of the law, then we know where we would have arrived. We woke up in Nigeria and the appeal court judges looked us in the face and said, to the best of my knowledge, they don't care about what the Constitution says. They care about what they want to say. And somebody said to me, like a technician, you see the way as a technician, sometimes if you have a car that had a problem, as a driver, let me explain the court system, the justice system like a car. When you have a car that is running well, you know as a driver where you sit, you put on your seat belt, you turn on your ignition, you drive your car. When that car develops a problem and stop you, you call a mechanic. The mechanic may not be able to fix the car, but that mechanic will find a way to drag the car to where he is going to fix the car. What the judges did was, Labour Party, PDP thought that the court is like a car that has the standard operating procedure. You have to sit here, you have to drive it like this way, you have to go there. But the judges, APC and their candidate, realize that they have problem. And it's like they hired the mechanic in the person of the judges. And they put their hand inside their toolbox and found a way to rubbish these petitioners and drag their paymaster to where they want them to be. But they know that car they drag, they still sick. They know that
So
it's
to
secret.
conclude on this person is saying that he hopes technicality will not murder any additional evidence they try to add to what they already had at the tribunal. We
Yeah,
can't really tell.
yes, I was already just saying that's exactly what I was saying when you posted it. Our courts themselves, our judges in the appeal court, actually went on technicality shopping. They themselves decided to shop for technicality on behalf of APC and their candidates. So if they want to continue on the technicality shopping spree, there may be no end to their technicality.
Yes.
But if they want to give justice, it's up to them. Either way, Nigerians will still win. It's either we win by getting that mandate or we win by exposing them. We are winners. They think we are losers. We are not losers. Nigerians are winners. And you know, the extent Peter Obi has gone so far. Even if he were to be a president after 8 years, he can only be president for 8 years. But the awakening he has caused in us will live with Nigerians for a lifetime. Martin Luther King Jr. is long gone. But the awakening he caused before they shot him at a young age of below 50 is still alive till today. Rosa Parks is long gone, but the revolution she caused is still alive till today. These people don't know that what this young man has awakened in us is the giant in us, and nobody can clobber us back again. Nobody.
Yes.
So we are winning.
Thank you for your thoughts. Honestly, even if we were to go to the polls today, the opposition will not find it easy. They will not find it light, as it's not business as usual. They know that, times have changed. And we must say a big thank you to Peter Obi for helping Nigerians to know that we, the citizens, we have to be active citizens. So, guys, talking about the tribunal, the Supreme Court, we have this lawyer who has come out to say that he's not sure Peter Obi and Atiku are going to get anything out from the Supreme Court. And this is one of the things we keep saying, that most times, once the tribunal rules, it becomes difficult for the Supreme Court to contradict on most occasions, to contradict what the tribunal has already ruled. So I'm going to allow this video to play, and then Doctor will come into.
Before you play the video, so I don't preempt the video. It is actually not impossible for the Supreme Court to overrule the appeal court. It is only if they themselves decided to tag along because they want to please a certain interest. Because we have seen the Supreme Court sometimes, in the case of Lawan, the former Senate president, the High Court and the Appeal Court ruled against Lawan. It was Supreme Court that came and overturned the Appeal Court. You remember that? It was Supreme Court. It was Supreme Court that massacred justice. Appeal Court stood for justice. Supreme Court massacred it. So it depends on if they want to just tag along to a certain interest. But that does not mean, in fact, in the case of Ihedioha versus Hope Uzodimma, the Appeal Court, the High Court, the Appeal Court both ruled in favor of Ihedioha. But Supreme Court, it was the Supreme Court that turned it upside down. I just thought to bring
the highest court.
I just thought to bring it to our knowledge before we progress with the video. Go ahead.
And I seriously believe that the unanimous judgment of the Court of Appeal is unassailable. It is as fixed as you can fix it, and I can assure you that if there is an appeal, I doubt whether anything can come out of the appeal.
That could be extremely categorical and preemptive of what the position of the is. But why would you say?
Well, let us be clear to ourselves. All the matters based on law that were brought before the tribunal have already been adjudged by the apex court in this country. And therefore, if I were to say my personal reasons, there was no need for the tribunal to have gone through, at least in Atiku's case, where no real bias, but points of facts. And when in a tribunal, you are bothering the tribunal with points of facts, the law says you must provide the particulars of facts upon which you want the court to, as the tribunal rightly said, Atiku's counsels, for one reason or the other, never presented any facts before the court that could warrant the court to look into those facts and be able to say categorically, one way or the other, that there were merits in those facts or not. Therefore, any reasonable, I'm sorry to use the word lawyer, will never have taken, with those facts available before the tribunal, and that's a trial matter. Secondly, on the question of the Labour Party were pressing their case on the basis that the law is, this is what the law says, this is what the law does not say. Again, all four items that the Labour Party presented to the tribunal were decisions that have been held and upheld at the apex court. So what are you asking the tribunal to do? To sit in on an appeal against the judgment of the Supreme Court, whether Abuja can be granted a special seat as a state in Nigeria, has been tabled before the apex court on many occasions, and the apex court has already made profound pronouncements as to the status of Abuja. No, asking the tribunal to create a special privilege for Abuja in the determination of whether Abuja belongs to one of the states that you must have 25%, or else you die and lose your individual. Natural justice, morality, whatever area you now want to turn that statement into.
I didn't know that the case of Abuja had been tabled before in terms of election process, and the Supreme Court had ruled as the High Court, as the Appeal Court just ruled. I didn't know. Are you aware of that?
I listened to the former Attorney General. He spoke on that, but he was saying that Abuja has a special status, that the court had once ruled on that. So his stance is different from what he's saying.
That's why I said what I said. That's why I said I didn't know. Because the much the apex court, the Supreme Court, had ruled with respect to Abuja was actually an affirmative to the prayer of the Labour Party. That's to the best of my knowledge.
Yes, of course. Mm-hmm.
That's number one. And secondly, he's talking about, I am glad, because I just wrote here, he said, Atiku, no fact. And then I said, Obi, facts discarded. Before he started saying that Labour Party was coming from, this is what the law said, this is what the law says. And he said that everything Labour Party had asked, that the Supreme Court had ruled on it before. And I'm asking which one? There is only one ruling the Supreme Court has given with respect to Electoral Act 2022 as amended. And that is in the case, that is the post-election ruling. Post-election ruling. And that is in the case of the governorship election of Osun State between Oyetola versus Adeleke. A fact that I've quoted here times without number. In fact, the last time I was in this space, last week, we literally presented here what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court was quoting Section 47 of the Electoral Act, Section 48 of the guidance of the INEC guideline and framework. And in all of them, Supreme Court quoted that and affirmed that the beavers is a vital aspect of the election for accreditation and for the upload. In fact, the Supreme Court used the word upload. They didn't even use the word transmit. For the upload to the server, for the purpose of collation. Any Nigerian that care can go read it. I have the judgment of the Supreme Court on Adeleke versus Oyetola. I have it. And it is open in the internet. Any Nigerian can go read it. Section 137 of the Electoral Act says that as long as there is a certified true copy of a document, there is no need for oral evidence again. That is the law. That is what Labour Party is asking for. That is why they didn't bother bringing 10,088 witnesses to come and depose them, because INEC has given them a certified true copy of the result they used in declaring the election. And that result was blank. It was 0. And according to the Evidence Act of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 2011, as amended, that Evidence Act specified that if you, for instance, supposed to give me a document that is in your custody, and by law, you are required to give it. Remember that it was a subpoena. It was a subpoena that the court gave them, that they gave to INEC, meaning even if INEC does not like it, they are mandated by court to produce it. And the appeal courts that gave a subpoena to Labour Party, which they served INEC responded late. Appeal court did not even challenge them for contempt of court. And then they certified empty result. Appeal court did not even say, okay, this thing you gave us is blank. What is the meaning of this? So, with all due respect to our honorable learned Oga here, you said you just used your mouth to say that Labour Party was talking on the point of the law, what the law say. I am happy that he said it with his mouth. What was it that the appeal court finally say with respect to the law, especially Electoral Act 2022? Because to the best of my knowledge, appeal court went back to Electoral Act 2011. They went back to 2011 because if this judgment of the appeal court were to be upheld by the Supreme Court, forget it. The $1 billion electronic voting system is gone. The IREV is gone. The beavers is gone. Because let me ask you a question. If you are one of these crooked politicians, will you approve IREV against yourself? Will you approve beavers accreditation against yourself? It's gone. It's gone. And as long as INEC can act in this imperious way and the court closes their eyes, forget it. It is the crooked politicians' world. They will kill, they will maim, they will bully, and they will tell you to go to court. And when you get to court, nothing will happen. So what are we talking here? I have said here times without number what is called the mischief rule in the legal system, whereby if there is a gap in existing law, you correct it in an amended law. And when a judge is sitting using the amended law to decide, he will always decide bearing in mind the gap that was existing that this current one came to correct. So these judges completely think that everything about our accreditation, the accreditation method of 2011 is no longer the accreditation method of 2022. The law specify it in the act, in the manual, and in the guideline. And INEC violated their guideline, their training manual, and the law itself in the collation. As long as this election is concerned, there was no collation. And if the judges upheld it in the Supreme Court, shame on them, because they have murdered democracy in Nigeria. That is it. Please continue. I just thought that before I lose my thought.
You will find that where morality and the law, as we lawyers will say, come to stand together, priority must be given to what is the position of the law. The law is very clear that Abuja's, even though it is not a state, but the Supreme Court says that we will concede to you that you are a state for other purposes. But nevertheless, we do not advise you to take advantage of the fact that since we have said you can be one of the states, you will not be granted special privileges. That is not the intention of the Supreme Court. Therefore, if the law says to be the president of Nigeria, you must have 25% votes in 2/3 of the states of Nigeria, then Abuja can be treated as a state out of the 2/3. But to say that since the word "and" had been used, and the English language can be determined in many ways, then you will now say that even if a man wins all the 36 states in Nigeria and has 25%, if he does not have 25% in Abuja, then he is not deemed to have won. Well, I am on air, so I will not use any foul language. A reasoning of that nature needs to be reconsidered. Lately, the television that has followed the proceedings in the Court of Appeal has made it so good, because politics in Nigeria has been turned into something else. And I don't blame them. We lawyers used to say in my time that this is the harvest period for lawyers. They believe that if politicians have made their money in very dubious manners, I'm sorry to use the word dubious, but that is the belief of many. So let us help them spend the money. So we call it the harvest time for lawyers. So lawyers, but if I were Robert Clark and I was briefed to take the brief of one of the appellants, now, I will refuse it. I will let them know that Tinubu has been found not guilty of having been convicted. Tinubu has been found not guilty of having not had the certificate to contest. This Abuja matter has been considered in 3 or 4 other cases.
Yeah,
and I will have declined.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
So, Doc, before I play the last clip.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you heard everything he said about Abuja.
Yes, I did.
And, you know, he was trying to say that for the fact that they say Abuja has a special status does not mean somebody must win Abuja for him to be declared the winner of a presidential election. Let me know your thought, please.
You see, I think the people we should have been looking up to are actually the people who have disappointed Nigerians. Like he said that he's on air, he wouldn't like to use foul language. You remember that the former NBA president, Olisa Bakoba, prior to the election, assuming that his position is even anything to go by, flagged this lacuna. And in his capacity as a senior advocate of Nigeria, wrote INEC official letter. Say, please, as this election is coming, so it does not become a legal matter, can you just explain to Nigerians, as INEC, your position? How are you reading this section of the law? Kim, INEC shut their mouth. Olisa Bakoba came to these same channels. This man, Sheuntu, interviewed him on that particular situation. And after interviewing him, he raised his own fears there and said, it would be nice for this thing to be addressed before the election so that every party going into this election will know what they're fighting for, where they're campaigning. Kim, he shut his mouth. They invited Festus Okoye, a lawyer, and who has the responsibility of educating Nigeria. He's the INEC commissioner in charge of voter education, meaning any question you want to ask INEC, knock on his door. He came here and said, oh no, the issue of Abuja, I'll leave it to my chairman. That was when I know that they are keeping it close to their chest, dangling it, finding a way they will use it. But a former commissioner, Mikey Guinea, who is also a lawyer, who had served and finished his term, meaning that if you were to look at commissioners, Festus Okoye is a junior to him because he finished his term meritoriously. He was singing it, and singing it. That Abuja is like the compulsory question. No matter what you answer, you must get 25% in Abuja. INEC did what? Pim, they didn't talk. Didn't it sound fishy? Where was Robert Clark then when Olisa Bakoba, who is a more patriotic Nigeria? The person who will come and say the court has done their job, or the person who would have come earlier and say, let us even save the taxpayers' money that will be wasted in courts. Who is more patriotic? Is it the INEC chairman or the likes of Pa Robert Clark, who is now telling us that there is no hope? That is number one. And number two is when you go to the first schedule of our constitution, something I've said here, it said Nigeria shall be a sovereign state called the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is our constitution, section 2, subsection 1 says that Nigeria shall be a sovereign state known as the Federal Republic, called and known as the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Then section 2, subsection 2 says Nigeria shall be constituted of 36 states and a federal capital. It never in any way included Abuja as one of the states. It said the states shall have commissioners, shall have local government headquarters, shall have state headquarters, and everything. He came to Abuja and said that the FCT shall have area council and what have you. He said for purpose of administration, the president will act more as if he's the governor of Abuja. The National Assembly will act as if they are the House of Assembly of Abuja. Why would one small city have a whole president as their governor? Is that not special? Why will one small city have a whole National Assembly as their own assembly? So the National Assembly is doing two roles. They make law for the whole nation and they make law for Abuja. Is he not aware of that? Why? They make law for the whole Nigeria, they make law for Abuja. And then you look at it again, you begin to ask yourself, why is it that our constitution and the Electoral Act demand that every political party in Nigeria If you don't have your head office in Abuja, you are not recognized by law. Why? Why can't they have their head office in Nasarawa State, in Lokoja, in Jos, or in Kafanchan? All those cities very close to Abuja. Why must it be there? Is that not special status? I mean, look at it psychologically, look at it socially, look at it from every facet. Abuja is exuding with special status. And these people are telling us what they should have told us before the election. They kept mute because they said there are 3 people tweeting in a room. They will not get to anywhere. God will judge any old woman, any old man that is helping to perpetuate injustice in Nigeria, whether by election or in our economy or in any way. All those old men, old women that we look up to help us, that are disappointing a young generation like us, making it impossible for young men to thrive, converting our girls unwillingly to become prostitutes and our boys to become drug mules for them. God will judge them. God will embarrass them. 1,000 years is like a day before God.
What exactly the law says, the
Go ahead.
provision of the law in saying 25% into third of the state of the federation, plus the FCT and the FCT that the court has said. A few lawyers had even raised this before the election. The likes of Chief Olisa Agbakoba had raised this issue that this might come up again, that if you do not win in the FCT, there is a big question mark. If your position is that it gives FCT a special status, if the court had ruled that if you do not win in FCT, you cannot be declared president, how do you think that we can then resolve what have become something like a mischievous reading into the position of the Constitution?
It will not be a mischievous reason. I don't think any court in Nigeria would make such a pronouncement, because the result results in an absurdity, or how do you say? Age is catching up on me. Now, the problem is, how can you say because a man who has majority of plural votes, a man who has won on the remaining 36 states, then cannot be pronounced as president because he did not have 25 of one state? It means you are giving that state a special privilege in the Constitution. And the Supreme Court has consistently said, look, Abuja, you are not a state, but we will concede to you that you are a state in circumstances where we feel you should be regarded as a state. One of the such circumstances is this one. If you want to produce 25%, then it should not mean that by that privilege you supersede all other 36 states. So it's more than absurdity. I believe no reasonable tribunal would have pronounced that.
How do you think going forward that our laws can resolve this? Do you think there needs to be an amendment going forward that there wouldn't be any kind of lacuna or any kind of obscurity or any kind of doubt over the status of wherever you win or where you don't win, especially as it concerns the FCT?
Look, the problem in Nigeria should not be left at the hands of the court. If we continue the way we are going, and we do not look at the processes of our statute in respect of elections, we will continue to be rushing to courts, and we will also continue to be opening our courts to all the biases that we have in this country. Let me be honest with you. The problem in Nigeria today is that the law that creates the Electoral Act has not been very, very nice to Nigerians. Number one, how can you say INEC, who is considered as an umpire, you will now say by law, anything INEC does in the course of producing results at an election will be regarded as correct because of the Evidence Act. The Evidence Act says any act or any paper purporting to show any act being done by government agency or by God will be presumed to be correct. So we call it the question of presumption of correctness attached to any document INEC. So if INEC comes to court and says, yeah, I conducted this election, these are the papers I...
Before he continued, I just wanted to say something. Presumption of correctness. Any act done by every government is presumed to be correct. We hold it there while we finish listening to the next sentence I think he's about to make. Then you just pause it after that sentence. Go ahead.
Use, and they're all correct. There's a presumption immediately the court will grant it to say, yes, you are correct. Now the onus now shifts to those who are challenging those documents to come and show evidence. And that was what the court was saying. The tribunal said, look,
now
know the law.
Pause. Now pause. I disagree with him now. I just wish that Nigerians are listening to this, our old lawyers. You remember that Labour Party submitted 11,000 polling unit results. 11,000 polling unit results. And INEC, which is presumed to be correct, meaning that the probate value of what INEC gave is greater and higher because it's a government body. And the courts subpoenaed INEC more like, you must produce that document you used to declare results. And INEC did what? Brought plain papers. Even without Labour Party presenting one document, haven't they won the case? Because 18,088 results does not exist. And INEC and Labour Party gave you exactly the number of registered voters. You remember that they mentioned the number of registered voters in those 18,088 polling units. Labour Party also gave the number of accredited voters on the day of that election. The number of registered voters there were mentioned. The number of accredited voters that day were mentioned, meaning potentially the number of accredited voters is the number of people that should have voted. And they computed it to be about 2.5 million votes that were supposed to come out of that blank sheet that INEC gave them. And the court is still asking Labour Party to come and do what again? They have given you say presumption of correctness. They use their mouth by Evidence Act to say that a government agency, if they issue you a paper, there is a presumption of correctness. And the paper they issued is 0. So they are correct. INEC is correct that they gave 0. Why are we competing with what INEC has given? Why are we challenging INEC again when they say that the result they gave was 0? Why shouldn't the court say, oh, INEC, you're always the most truthful person here. Hence, you gave us 0. It will cost you nothing. But we are going to declare the election void in this place. And because the total number of votes in this place is greater than the difference between whom INEC declared first and whom INEC declared second, the law says that election must be cancelled. We are talking law here. That is it. If I take him from his word that INEC should be presumed to be correct, and that any document they issued is preeminent over any other one, they issued nothing because their document was blank. Why should I, even as a judge, believe Labour Party's result when INEC's own says 0? Please, Nigerians, let us use our head. Let us use our head. Then the judges said again that there has to be evidence, people who witnessed that there was corruption, that there was fraud, that they need to be deposed. We are saying that this thing is like a global thing in the entity called Nigeria, where we have 176,000 polling units, and only 18,088 is problematic now. So the appeal court judges, contrary to Section 137 of the Electoral Act, want 18,088 people to come and testify. How many days do they have to do that? How many days? And Section 137 says, when there is a certified true copy from a government body like INEC, which is given the presumption of correctness, you don't need oral witness again. Did the court forget that? Or do they have a copy of the Electoral Act that did not include that Section 137? Did they publish fake for us on the internet? Or do they have another copy that we don't have? So, my dear, I think we should call it a night here today, because as I listen to this man, he's I'm sorry to say, the Honorable Senior Lawyer Robert Clark. From my own perspective, everything you're saying is contradictory to what we have in our Electoral Act. Simple. Thank you. Okay, so Nigerians, we will go to the Supreme Court. Let them go to embarrass themselves again in the Supreme Court. Let us know how they are going to vomit what they use their mouth to say in the case of Oyetola versus Adeleke. Oyetola versus Adeleke has exposed them. The interest was low, so they gave the real judgment. Let us know now that the interest of one man is high and he must be protected at all costs, whether our own Supreme Court will tumble and abandon what they said in May, just May this year, just May this year. So let's go to Supreme Court. Let's hear them. Let them, either they continue to dent their image or they decide to do the needful. But as I've said, head or tail, Nigerians are winners. Nigerians are winners. Even if Nigerians did not get Aso Rock, we have the mandate in our heart and we know who we gave it to. We are winners. We have exposed these old men, old women, these people who have chosen to keep on imposing themselves on us. Do you know these people that are still in power today? When I was in primary school, I used to do the recitation in the assembly. I don't know if you people did it, you people are younger. You come and do 19 states of Nigeria and their capital, the president of Nigeria, the governors in Nigeria. The same name I was mentioning when I was 6 years in primary school. They are still the same name I am mentioning now. They are the same name my children are mentioning. I am reciting them as governor. My children are reciting them as governor. How bad. These were people who became governors when they were 30. They became presidents when they were 30-something, 40-something. They are 70-something, 80-something. And they are still telling us, God will help Nigeria. Please let's call it a night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. You said it all. So, guys, thank you very much for joining us today. Please do well to like this video so that YouTube will recommend it for others to watch. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Please, we ask for that support. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you get all our updates. Thank you and have a very good night's sleep. Bye.
Thank you.
Doug, thank you
Bye.
and good night. Bye.